All right, everybody. It's very good to be here. It's Friday, a good way to go still in our course. But I'm very happy to be here. It's very good to practice my own English and at the same time to have you guys practicing your ability to comprehend a class in English, right? So we are all kind of practicing here and trying to get better, okay? Okay, so this is behavior economics of global affairs. As I have explained from the beginning, it is not so much behavior economics of global affairs. The most appropriate description of this class would be behavior economics of global issues, right? Instead of affairs. Affairs são assuntos, assuntos globais, a economia comportamental de assuntos globais. Na verdade, o que a gente faz aqui é tentar discutir a economia comportamental de questões globais, né? De problemas, de grandes desafios globais. Okay? So far, we have studied a little bit about behavior economics, what it is not, and we have met some of the most important researchers and proponents of behavior economics, right? The guys who actually developed some of the most important theories in behavior economics. Let's start giving you a very brief and very simple description of what is cognitive biases. Cognitive biases are tendencies or patterns of systematic errors, patterns of deviations from rationality. So, the translation to Portuguese is viés cognitivo, tendências ou padrões de erros sistemáticos, padrões de desvios da racionalidade. So, somehow, it doesn't matter if you are a Chinese person, an American person, and or a Brazilian person, it doesn't matter. We all have this kind of tendency to make some sort of predictable mistakes. Erros que são previsíveis, independente de você ser brasileiro, chinês, americano, or whatever, all right? We all tend to make the same kind of mistakes. And those mistakes can affect our memory. Actually, you guys are going to be fascinated. Memories are not what we think they are, okay? Most of us think that we have like pictures of what happened. We have like precise descriptions of what happened, and we store that data in our minds. And it's not like this. We actually we build memories. But then again, we're going to talk about that later. Okay. Cognitive biases will also affect and mostly affect decision making. We make choices that are not exactly what we should, and sometimes we will regret, okay? But we are going to discuss that today. Behaviors in general, so habits and how we react to certain questions or certain situations, those are also predictable, and many times they reveal this pattern of mistakes, okay? And finally, judgment. When we translate judgment to Portuguese, most likely we are going to say julgamento. But here, judgment is more in the sense of juízo. Juízo. Juízo pode ser o julgamento, né? Eu fiz juízo de uma pessoa, avaliei mal, avaliei bem, condenei ou absolvi uma pessoa, mas o juízo também pode ser uma avaliação geral de uma situação. Alright? So judgment here, the last word on the right hand side of the diagram, it's also affected by cognitive biases. Alright? Okay, there's one most important information at this point. Please notice these things that we are going to talk about, those are not cultural aspects of choice making, okay? This is not, I'm not talking about Brazilian people versus American people. I'm not talking about people from Paraguay, Uruguay, or Argentina. No, all of us, okay? All of us, regardless of our cultures, independent of our uh, the place we were born, the way we were raised by our parents. Okay, so this we are going to talk about things that are um, common to any person, any place, anytime. Okay, we could discuss cognitive biases in the times of Napoleon. We could discuss cognitive biases in the Second World War in Britain. And still, we would be talking about the same things. So it's not culture. Why is that I am emphasizing that so much? Por que eu estou enfatizando isso tanto? Well, guys, you're gonna see some of these things. You will have a look and you'll say, oh, this is more like an American person. Oh, no, that's exactly how Brazilian people do. And it's not like that. We're talking about universal traits of the human mind. Okay? Everybody fine with that? With that idea?
Tranquilo, professor.
Okay, good. Thank you. Let me also say that sometimes cultural aspects may emphasize cognitive biases or somehow restrict cognitive biases. So somehow, yes, there is culture. We know that some things we learn from our community, from our parents, in our families. Some behaviors we actually develop like that socially, right? And then some of those may be associated with values, with culture. But cognitive biases are universal. They can be strengthened, fortalecidos, or weakened by culture or cultural aspects. Okay? All right, good. So, how can we see if we, myself, you, or any of us here in our class, how can we see and check out people showing signs of cognitive biases? First, if people only watch certain TV shows and those that actually confirm their opinions, right? So let's say that you are evangelical and you say, I will not watch Globo. I will not watch Bandeirantes. I will only watch Rede TV or whatever. What's the name of the... Uh, suppose that you say, no, I don't like Jornal Nacional. I will only watch TV do Trabalhador. I will only watch such and such. When we don't want to listen to other points of view, we just want opinions that confirm our own, well, this most likely are signs that you are behaving like someone with cognitive biases. When we attribute to others success, just luck. You say, oh, someone is successful. Oh, no, he was just lucky. Actually, he's not that good. So, once again, it happens many times. Sometimes we see people and we say, hey, so unfair, you know, that guy has never worked so hard as I did, and somehow he got a much better position. Well, things happen like that sometimes, but many times we fail to recognize someone's true reasons for success. Okay? Third example, when we are constantly blaming others if things don't go our ways. When I mean, it's very hard to say, yeah, it's me, my bad, it was my fault. It is kind of a difficulty in recognizing our own mistakes. Once again, we're going to see that in many circumstances in life, and those are evidences toward cognitive biases. Some people always assume that they are correct, and they fail to recognize that it is not possible. I mean, unless you are a robot, and even then, if you are a robot, sometimes you will make mistakes too. But it's human to make mistakes, and people fail to understand that sometimes. And last, when we assume that everyone else share our opinions, we just say it's natural, it's obvious, so everybody should think just like myself. It doesn't happen that way. And sometimes, as a teacher here, sometimes I think that you guys can follow my my train of thought. Às vezes eu acho que vocês estão me acompanhando, que estão entendendo tudo que eu estou falando. E depois eu vou descobrir lá 3 slides para frente que alguém levanta a mão e fala: Luiz, espera aí, por que tinha aquele trevo de 4 folhas ali mesmo? Não entendi direito e tal. Alright, so em português, tem gente que só quer assistir o canal de TV ou o programa de TV que confirma suas opiniões. As pessoas atribuem o sucesso dos outros à sorte e não são capazes de reconhecer o valor em outras pessoas. Elas acusam e atribuem falhas aos outros toda vez que alguma coisa dá errada. Elas acham que estão sempre corretas ou elas partem do pressuposto de que todo mundo pensa igual a elas. Todos esses são sinais de vieses cognitivos, alright? Então, já falamos tanto no preâmbulo dos vieses cognitivos, que agora só resta dizer assim, esses vieses cognitivos, eles são parte dos mais básicos princípios comportamentais, tá? Faz parte da listinha fundamental do estudo da economia comportamental. Now, don't get scared. I'm going to show you how many cognitive biases our minds are susceptible to. Now, check this out. You see now a picture with 168 different ways according to which our brains make mistakes, predictably, all over the world, universal. So I'm showing you hundreds, literally hundreds of ways in which we make mistakes. But we have like 4 big areas in which we make mistakes. The first one is when we have too much information. Quando tem informação demais, we make lots and lots of mistakes. Okay? When there is not enough meaning, quando não tem significado suficiente. Pode ter informação, mas você não consegue desenhar significados, organizar significados. So, we have lots and lots of cognitive biases too. It could also be when we need to act fast. When the time is up, you have to make a decision, we make lots and lots of mistakes. If you press someone to make a decision fast, good chance that this person will make a mistake, right? And finally, when we have to trust our memory. Now, it turns out that our memory is not so good as we would like it to be. We actually we build our memories, and sometimes we design some features of our memory. We actively change our memory as time passes. So it goes like this. You visited a cousin of yours when you are visiting let's say, Caruaru. Então, suponha que você foi a Caruaru visitar um primo seu. Right after you come back, your neighbor asks you, how was your trip? And you say, yeah, kind of, yeah, it was good. Not much, but it was good. Então você fala assim, não, foi uma boa viagem e tal. 1 year later, your same neighbor asks you, last time you were in Caruaru, you didn't have such a good time, right? Então o seu vizinho 1 ano depois pergunta assim, aquela última vez que você foi a Caruaru não foi tão bom, né? And then you say, no, it was good. It was really good. Yeah, it was. So just because the time passes, you change your memory. You actually cook your memory as time goes. And that is not like we are getting crazy. It happens to all of us. That's the way we actually sometimes work our memories. So when we have to depend on your memory to make decisions, there's a good chance we are also going to have some cognitive biases too. You're going to have some predictable mistakes, okay? All right, enough with explanation. Let's have a look at them. The first one, ambiguity effect. The tendency to avoid options for which misinformation makes the probability seem unknown. Toda vez que a gente é apresentado um problema e que está difícil de calcular as probabilidades ali, que alguma informação não está permanente, não está presente, a gente vê uma certa ambiguidade, we are very likely to make mistakes. Tem uma grande chance que a gente vai cometer erros, or sometimes we're just gonna avoid making that choice. Algumas vezes a gente vai evitar, vai tentar postergar, adiar aquela escolha. Right? So you can see that in many situations of life. But let me give you these 3 first, and then we're going to give you some examples. The second one, attentional biases. The tendency of our perception to be affected by our recurring thoughts. A tendência de nossas percepções serem afetadas pelos nossos pensamentos mais recorrentes. Guys, think about this for a while. If someone is pessimistic, if someone is always down and always saying, no, my life is terrible, I hate living in Recife, I hate o FRPE, Brazil is going down, everything is terrible, I hate Bolsonaro, I hate Paulo Câmara, I hate everybody. If you are very pessimistic, and someone meets you in any given day and asks you, how was your day today? And the person will say, terrible, it was horrible, I'm gonna kill myself. So people have perceptions, and those perceptions are affected by our recurring thoughts. Os nossos pensamentos mais recorrentes afetam a nossa percepção da realidade. And the third one, bandwagon effect. Aqui seria a melhor tradução, não dá para traduzir bandwagon effect. A melhor tradução seria efeito manada. The tendency to do or believe things because many other people do or believe the same things. It's related to group thinking and herd behavior, comportamento de manada. All right, guys. Now, I'm going to challenge you. Someone open up the mic or just type in the chat one situation in which you saw these things working in your life. Alguém me dê um exemplo aí, ou de efeito ambiguidade, ou efeito atencional, ou efeito manada, que vocês já viram no seu dia a dia.
Eu acho que quando a gente está fazendo uma prova que a gente vê umas alternativas que não estejam muito claras, acho que foi a primeira coisa assim que eu lembrei na questão da ambiguidade. Aí a gente, vamos para outra e depois a gente volta para ela.
Exactly, yeah. That's a predictable way we say, and even sometimes just because we didn't read correctly the sentence, right? So
Yeah.
that's why teachers keep telling you, stop, try to read calmly the sentences, because sometimes we feel like the sentence is incomplete or that you don't have enough information. You do exactly that, Mariana. You just jump to the next question. You say, yeah, I'm not going to waste my time here. I want to avoid that situation. Great example. Someone else, give me an example of either attentional bias or bandwagon effect, efeito manada.
Eu observo, professor, uma discussão grande em relação ao efeito manada, principalmente em épocas de eleições, em que se tende enfim, utilizar muito do efeito das pesquisas eleitorais, né, dando força para um determinado candidato e incentivando com que esse efeito manada aconteça na sociedade, né? Então isso a gente observa muito também.
Perfect, Thiago.
Great.
Perfect. This is great example. That's exactly. I mean, we have now a huge discussion about surveys, about pesquisas de opinião, and they're saying we are going to prohibit the survey results to be published right before the election. Eles estão querendo proibir que os resultados de pesquisa sejam divulgados em menos de 48 horas antes da eleição. Why is that they're trying to do that? They know that information affects people's behavior. So you are perfectly correct. Yes, this is a good example of bandwagon effect. There's another one, and you saw it last week. This week, people were saying that caminhoneiros were going to stop. And then people were just driving to the gas station. And everybody was pulling out and stopping there. I have to get gas, right? Você passava pelos postos de gasolina de Recife, estavam todos assim. Porque todo mundo começou, a turma começou a achar que se tem tanta gente no posto de gasolina, é porque vai faltar mesmo. Então é melhor eu ir também. Right? This is a panic, right? It's panic behavior. And it looks like absolutely irrational. People just react. They get nervous. They say, just in case, I'm going to be there. I'm going to get more gas too. All right. Great examples, guys. Thank you. So just to illustrate each of those, on the left-hand side, you have polarization, has jumped out of political debates and invaded all sorts of conversations. People quickly join their group's opinion, and that's it. No more dialogue. Brazil, we're losing the ability to discuss without fighting. People are too angry or too way too dedicated to a certain opinion, and they should consider again, right? We should always learn from opposing views. Unfortunately, people are too polarized nowadays, and it's a sort of bandwagon effect, efeito manada. If you have in the middle here, if you have ambiguity, people just want to drop out and avoid that decision. And finally, on the right-hand side, if all you think about is death, crisis, recession, unemployment, pandemic, if you keep watching every time your TV just talking about sick people, hospitals, and COVID-19 and all of that, if you keep listening all the time to the same kind of news, your perception of reality is truly affected by that, okay? So in our days, mental health, saúde mental, is such a serious problem, so serious as the very pandemic, okay? All right, let me have these last 3 examples here before we stop our class today. It's almost 8 o'clock. We don't want to surpass that point. Okay, so bias blind spot. The tendency to see oneself as less biased than other people, or to be able to identify more cognitive bias in others than in oneself. Now, check this out. É o ponto cego dos vieses. Bias blind spot. You guys have just started to learn behavior economics. Now, you're gonna look at your brother or your neighbor or your mother, and you're gonna look at them and say, oh, you have so many cognitive bias. But no, me? No, I have studied behavior economics.
Eu, depois de ler o Misbehaving.
Yeah, exactly. We feel like we are cured, but it's not like that, guys. Check this out. Vieses cognitivos são igual miopia. Você saber que você tem miopia não deixa de você precisar de óculos. Você sabe que você tem miopia. Isso não faz com que seu olho corrija a lente por si só. Então, saber que você é suscetível a viés cognitivos não corrige. You have to use some sort of glasses too, okay? We are going to talk about later how can we overcome cognitive biases, but it is very common that we feel like other people have too many biases and we fail to look at ourselves precisely, okay? The second one, choice supportive biases. So once we make a choice, it's hard to go back. It's hard to realize and to confirm that we made mistakes, right? So if you make a choice and that ends up not being the best choice, you're going to try to justify, and sometimes you're going to still stick with it, even though it is now clear that that was not the best choice. Então, o viés da escolha feita. Uma vez que você fez uma escolha, é difícil de analisar com isenção. A gente não gosta muito de assumir a culpa. Falar, não, minha escolha foi péssima. If we are going to a restaurant, we are going to have lunch together. I invite all of you, and we say, where are we going? And we say, okay, we're going to this Japanese restaurant here. And then we go there. If the food is great and everybody likes, we're going to say, yeah, it was me. It was my idea. But if some of us, no, this was not so good. Yeah, but it's okay. And then you say, no, it was not my choice. This was Elvidio. Elvidio was the one to point out that restaurant. So we don't like the idea of revising our own options.
Eu acho que um exemplo também seria a questão de como é difícil um divórcio depois de tanto tempo. Que o casamento já está muito difícil e tal, e você vê que as pessoas continuam porque vai ser difícil, tem que ter toda uma audiência, isso e aquilo, e acaba ficando.
Exactly. This is very good example, Mariana. Sometimes people would be better off just stopping. They fight all the time, they harm each other, and they don't want to consider that was not a good choice. They should stop and go back. They should stop being together. Exactly. Very good example. It's hard to, and that can be, for example, if you hire a company, if you go to a specific gym, você vai para uma academia, and then you later realize that was not the best option, but you say, I'm here already, this is good, I actually like here.
Yeah.
You just don't want to assume. Você não quer dar o braço a torcer. All right. Now let me tell you the last one. The last of this night, because we're going to talk about lots and lots of other ones, okay? But this one is incredible. This is the most important of all. It's the confirmation bias. The tendency to search for, interpret, focus on, and only remember information in a way that confirms my perception. Então a gente olha para o mundo, a gente procura as evidências que vão confirmar a nossa opinião. A gente analisa o mundo e fala assim: o que o mundo está fazendo, eu já sei. Deixa eu ver aqui só para confirmar. Now, this is a very, very strong bias. All of us are susceptible to that. And we have to be careful. You know what? If you think for a while, science was created to fight confirmation bias. A ideia do método científico foi desenvolvida para que a gente resolva esse problema. Para que a gente saiba lidar com a tendência natural de olhar para o mundo querendo confirmar as nossas opiniões. O método científico nos obriga a enunciar a opinião antes, definir como vai recolher as hipóteses, definir como vai testar as hipóteses, aplicar o teste, submeter para uma outra pessoa para ver se a gente tinha algum viés. Aí só quando a outra pessoa concorda, pronto, eu tenho um achado científico. So, confirmation bias, this tendency to search for information that confirm our opinion, this is a huge thing. This is a huge, very important problem. And some people don't even realize it is there. Some people they don't mature enough to realize that we all need a third perspective. Todos nós precisamos de uma opinião de fora, de alguém que olhe para os nossos problemas e às vezes fale, olha, você não está observando direito, está faltando falar sobre tal assunto. All right, so confirmation bias is a huge, huge topic. Let me stop here. For those who are watching this video later on, thanks a million one more time for sticking with us, and I'll see you next time.